Any other questions or anything else on your mind? Yep. Yes.
I just had one more thing, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Here, you know, there was a serious hit and run that took place up on 117th
Yes.
Sunday evening.
With a fatality, yes. That's right.
Okay. Something really, really seriously had to be done about our crosswalks signals. Something has to be done. Because, I mean, just take right here, for instance, Cove and Lake. Okay? Here, I mean, that signal light switches so quick, the crosswalk lights change so quick. I mean, instead of like up there by Garfield Middle School, I mean, they had 45 seconds, okay? These crosswalk signs down in here, they don't even have 3 seconds. And this is something that we brought up in our group meetings, okay? And here, it's just that somebody needs to contact, I don't know, probably downtown Cleveland.
No. Not if it's one of our intersections.
Okay, but
Before you leave here, do me a favor. Before you leave here, talk to Bill Corrigan and tell him which intersection you're talking about, and we'll see if we can adjust it. That's something entirely that we would control as far as what the timing of the light is.
Okay.
We have a traffic signal department, and if there's and it happens sometimes. We've adjusted them before. If you know of one in particular that you think is too short, that it causes a safety hazard, they'll go out and do a quick traffic study, a survey of it, and if you're right, they'll change it. But talk to him before you leave. Talk to him about which one before you leave, and he'll take the details from you.
Because at our last group meeting in November, Drew was there. Okay, and here that was brought up, and Drew said, "Well, I understand exactly what you mean."
All right. Well, I want to get that information from you. We'll see if there's something we can do.
Thank you.
Anything else before I wrap it up? Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is and I know you have no control over this whatsoever, but maybe you have some thoughts. The Asian carp getting into the Great Lakes in the state of Illinois.
I have complete control.
Why isn't there I mean, this is an absolute crisis. I mean, this is big bucks long term. And why isn't somebody like Voinovich really moving on it? He's a big perch fisherman. I mean, why isn't there more action on this?
Do we have a slide on that? We don't have a slide on that. I don't know. You know, my general thought would be that we're slow to react to these kind of things. We're slow to react to the zebra mussel situation when that happened the invasion of species from outside the ecosystem is something that government is very slow about, and they always, and you know that I know you're passionate about those issues, and they always have been. And I don't pretend to be as well versed in it as you are, but I don't know the answer to your question. I just don't. I don't know why, but we tend to wait because I think people think it's natural somehow, but really it's not. It's man interfering in the natural balance of things. But I don't know why we haven't responded quicker to it. I don't know. Yes.
One thing, can we ask like some additional support just on taking a look at an intersection right at Lake and Nicholson?
What about that intersection in particular?
I wait there quite often. I live on Nicholson, so when I come up, I'm there, and the light cycles through.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say almost every other time, someone runs a red light through that intersection, just on a regular basis. It's usually westbound in the evening and eastbound in the morning.
Are you saying the light is not timed properly, or are you just saying you want enforcement on it?
The light's timed properly. It's just typically someone runs through it on Lake Avenue.
It's a rush hour issue.
It's a rush hour issue, and
we've also been asked too about getting that left turn signal back to go south on Nicholson. And actually, I've talked with Joe Beno about that before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a police monitoring.
Right,
really,
exactly.
It is a rush hour issue.
We'll do a special detail for it. So I'll talk to the officer about it, and we'll set somebody up there. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Are there some schools that are closed where I go and it says you can't make on red a turn? The school is closed, but why don't you take down the sign?
Oh, well, you know, that's a good question. I will tell you that we are going through and we're doing a citywide review of of no turn on reds. Because what happens is the city would respond when there was a request to make a no turn on red, but then when the circumstances would change, there wouldn't be anything necessarily that would trigger saying, okay, let's do it. I will tell you also with the schools, some of them they weren't sure. I mean, they weren't sure if they were going to end up using them for some classes. I mean, even TAP, which is right around the corner. I mean, that's not on the market, and the reason is because they're not sure they're not going to have to use it as they're shuffling their school. I do think the school situation is going to get clarified. There's, they're making their final decisions, but it's a good point. If you know of it, but we are doing a review of all our no turn on reds. We probably had a proliferation of them over time, and we probably need to review them all. Yeah, there's one more question. Let's do the last
Is
one.
there any funding for any of the erosion issues up and down Edgewater Drive?
That is.
I know some buildings have taken it upon themselves at a huge financial burden to stop some of their erosion. But is there any state or federal money that's going to be able to help us stop it?
Well, that's a good question. When we first took office, we reached out to a lot of the lakefront owners and asked them if they wanted to participate in like a joint erosion control district. And the funding source for it was actually going to be the Cleveland Port Authority. And other cities have done this, by the way. Rocky River did this in the 80s, actually, in Rocky River. They got all of their property owners together and said, listen, instead of each of you individually doing your own little engineering projects, you could save a lot of money, pool all your resources. You only have to pay for one engineer instead of paying for an engineer for each situation. The other thing is, what I've learned is a lot of the costs that are associated with those projects have to do with barging out the materials. So if you could do a project that was all up and down a certain area, you get economies of scale and save a lot of money. The problem was the Port Authority, I don't know if you follow what's happened in the paper with the Port Authority, but Port Authority has had kind of an identity crisis. They had a new director. We met with him. We asked him to pursue this. That's right when they said they were interested. That's right when the economy started having its troubles. A lot of people don't know it, but even when the Port Authority finances something, they do that through an investment bank. So they were dealing with a bank out of Columbus, actually, and then they tightened up on their money. The director of the Port Authority ended up getting, he resigned, I guess. And so they've been kind of figuring out that identity. So that was kind of our approach that they were taking. The quick answer to your question is there's no just big pool of grant money out there, state or federal. You can get some federal assistance for it. So, for instance, we did a lakefront project at Lakewood Park, and we got some state assistance for it. We got a little bit of federal assistance for it, but it was mostly local money. The solution for this kind of thing, I should have mentioned this in my overall talk, is that when there's one approach to dealing with problems, which is saying, is the federal government going to come in and do it, or is the state government going to come in and do it, and is the local government going to come in and do it? And maybe that was true at one time, but in a time of shrinking resources, that is less and less likely. I don't care how many stimulus packages there are; it's still less and less likely. I mean, we're not going to be able to do it. So the best approach, just to go back to the woman's question earlier, the best approach, in my opinion, is for property owners to try to pool their resources. And what you can do is you can form what's called sometimes it's called a SID. It stands for Special Improvement District. And believe me, if the whole Gold Coast, if everybody on Edgewater Drive, all up and down Lakewood, all pooled their money and agreed to share those costs, and then you end up getting a financing mechanism through First Federal of Lakewood, which has expressed some interest in doing this. I'm not saying it's going to be free, so I'm not saying the state or the feds are going to come in and do it all, but it becomes fairly affordable because basically it goes on everybody's real estate taxes. Now, the tough thing is getting everybody to agree to do it because everybody gets the benefit for it. So we're willing to do that. Now, one part of Lakewood took us up on the offer, and this is just to tell you the complexity of this whole situation. By Maple Cliff Drive, they have, are you familiar where I'm talking about? They actually have a beach at the foot of their